can you tell everybody a little bit about the different characters?
Yeah, of course. So, book one, obviously the main character, and he's the main character throughout the entire series, is Sergeant Rico Ricochet. And his handler, Chris, who, interesting story, is actually based off of a former soldier that I was deployed with, a female named Chris, who was the first female Army Ranger in the history of the United States Army, which is obviously, enough said, pretty big accomplishment. So Rico and Chris are a very tight knit group. Chris picked Rico out of a litter of puppies. Really liked his energy. He was always pinballing around the room, ricocheting around the room. That's where he got his nickname, or his name, Ricochet, Sergeant Rico Ricochet. And after he gets out of the Army with an unfortunate event during his time in service, he gets thrusted into a brand new environment that he had no idea what to expect. He had never met any of these other dogs, these other animals before. And they really kind of pick him up and give him a new purpose and say, yeah, you may not be in the Army anymore, but there's a lot of things that we could use a dog like yours help with. And he's got Penny, who's one of my favorite characters, a black lab, who through thick and thin always finds a way to remain positive. And I think that's important in everybody's life, is to have somebody in your close circle, a close friend, or a teacher or a coach, that even if you're feeling down, you got someone who's super positive, super optimistic, and that's always gonna help lift your spirits. And then there's the more quirky characters like Smithers the snake, Franny the hedgehog, and I wanted to have a diverse looking group, the Pawtriots, because I think it's very reflective of our society. America is one of the most diverse, societies in the world, and I think diversity brings the beauty out of every person individually, but diversity and a wide range of friends also helps you and your team or your group of friends be better people.
So now, is there one character that is more like you than any other one?
I wouldn't say that any specific character is based off of any specific person, myself included. I would say that every character, when I would, part of my writing process was, okay, who is this character? What's his or her name? What do they look like? And then what character traits do they have? What personifies them? And the best way to figure out, what a character is going to look, feel, say, and think is to relate that to your own experiences and people from your own life. So, it's funny, Chaps, who is a, old hound dog from book one, a former Army dog himself, he's kind of gruff and tumble, and he's a straight shooter. And, he really wants Rico to be his best self and revert back to thinking like, once a soldier, always a soldier. He's kind of a mashup of a few of the actual old crusty Army, non-commissioned officers, old sergeants who, were like that in real life.
Well, it's fun to read for me because my all of my boys played Army and, growing up.
Right.
It was so great to really learn the different words and the different phrases and what things mean. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. So I loved that they were in there and that there was such an explanation about it. And it was just so cool. So did you think ahead? Did you mean to do that, or did it just, your writing just come out that way?
Well, it's kind of twofold. It started to just come out that way. But then I realized how much fun it would be. I kind of try to do it organically, where the meaning for the Army words came, through context that you would understand it. But then, I was thinking, it took me about, 6 months of being in the actual Army as an adult to kind of get the lingo and the jargon down through repetition, etc. So I thought, why not just, be blatantly obvious, hit the nail on the head and say, this means that and that means this.
Because it's just really fun. So what's your favorite phrase?
I mean, I gotta say hua. I think hua it's an interesting thing. Its origins date back to the Revolutionary War, and spelt out, it's HOOAH, and it can really mean anything. It can mean, let's go in the most positive way, and it can also mean let's go when you and your unit are tired. You've been on a long ruck march, or you've been out in the woods or the hot desert for hours and hours, and you're tired, but you got to keep moving. So you'd have a lot of leaders, and me, when I was in the Army, I was a leader as well, and you got to say, hua, let's go. So it can mean it, and even if you're down and out, it's like, all right, hua, let's go, keep it moving. So I think that it's probably the most cliche one to pick, but I love Pop Smoke, which I think is a good one. It's not in book one, so you got to read all four to find out where it's in, everybody. Yeah. Pop Smoke is a great one because it's an easy, fun visual when you actually realize what it means. And it means, we gotta get out of here. We gotta pop smoke. So there's a bunch of fun ones. Yeah.
So now, Penny, you said is your favorite character. Who is your least favorite character that you had to put them in?
Yeah, that's that's interesting. There's a lot of, I didn't really have like a foil or any, atypical down the line bad characters in there, but some of them are good vessels to keep the plot moving forward, kind of do some exposition so the audience or the reader can get a good feel of where the story's going. I mean, again, not to be super, cliche or typical, but the hardest one for me to write was Mr. Makoso, who's the villain in book one. And Mr. Makoso's whole spiel is that he wants to shut down this sanctuary where Rico has been at. It's an animal shelter, and what cruel person would want to shut down an animal shelter, So writing to try to get in the head of somebody who could do something so bad was difficult to kind of wrap my head around.
Now, do you have a favorite one thus far of the four?
I do. I think my favorite book out of the first four is book 3, Into the Storm. And, obviously book 1 will always hold a very big spot in my heart because it's the first book. It's the, genesis of this entire, whirlwind experience that I've been on. But from a pure writing standpoint, book 3, Into the Storm, was my favorite because I kind of made the decision to get a little, add some fantasy elements in there. I mean, for those of you who haven't read book 3, it involves, a dog pirate coming back from being away for hundreds of years and wreaking havoc on the Pawtriots. And I thought that was just a really fun book to write because it was so fantastical.